So let's jump in from what we talked about last. I talked about the brand predictions coming up, and now let's talk about what it really means to recession-proof your business and be unshakable during any economic event that's happening in the world. And a little hint, it all comes down to working on the right hard things so that you can create strength and foundation and insurance, frankly, for your expert-based business. So the first thing I'm going to start with, obviously, is that recessions are economic events. That's all they are. Okay. Also, a non-recession is an economic event. So when you think of how to look at a recession, okay, do not freak out or do anything rash based on short-term fear. So especially when it comes to your stock investments, etc. You know, people are like, oh, it's going down, or crypto is crashing. And I'm like, it's not going to last forever. And every investment is typically a long-term investment, unless you are a that type of what do you call those people who? Yeah, you're a day trader. And I don't know, are any day traders? So if you are, don't listen to me, okay? But otherwise, the majority of us are not day traders, and we don't engage in that kind of risk, because that's actually a lot of risk, but there's a huge reward for day traders if they're really good at it. Economic events are happening every single day, and they are also being done globally, right? Obviously, the US economy has a lot of influence on how the world makes money decisions, but also they're not. Okay, let me just, so for the Americans in the room, or rather the United States people in the room, you know, if you go and travel to other countries, you will see that they are not experiencing the same level of fear that we can, because our media is so powerful. Our media controls everything that we think, act, and do. So I want to encourage you to know that just don't be triggered by the recession. The whole point of this next part of the presentation is to get you prepared to win. Because the best time to grow a business is during a recession. Because during a recession, all the people who aren't in the training with us today are being exposed to the fear of it, okay? And they don't have the education or the access like we have right now being together to understand how to actually work it. So here are some of the things that we want to become good at during an economic event like a recession. First is make decisions based on your values. Start to really enact that muscle of values-driven decisions. Remember when I talked about clean yes and clean no? There's no such thing as a clean maybe. Okay, maybe is a dirty answer, and not because you're doing something wrong. It's because whether you choose yes or no, you'll find out what the impact is after you've made the decision. But you'll never know unless you make a decision, right? So if this is a time to focus on what matters, learn how to be more values driven. The next is leadership of self. So what I mean by that is integrity. So to me, the definition of integrity is being a leader of yourself and keeping your word to yourself first, even before you make promises to others, okay? And so stop letting yourself down. Like, make a commitment that during this economic event that you're gonna listen to both your intuition and intellect first. And you will be thoughtful about not making any promises to yourself that you're not willing to finish, okay? And that's what leadership of self and integrity mean to me. And when I started, I did this thing. Here's a little trick, because I'll give you a tool of how I did it. It's called the BCT game, all right? So every time I use the word but, can't, or try, I'd pay myself $1, okay? And I put it in a BCT jar for a month. And I said, you know, what I'm gonna do with that money is donate it. So obviously it's like kind of like you would think, okay, I want more in there, you know, so that I can donate it. So what I've learned is a better way to do it, because I did it a different way before, but a great way to do it now, my friend Jenny Thompson taught me this. She makes that money go to a cause she absolutely hates. So like if she puts the BCT money in the jar, she gives the money to, like, let's say she's like, it's for a political campaign or like, you know, something like that. She actually gives it to somebody she doesn't like, so that it incentivizes her not to do whatever. In my case, it was the BCTs. Because when you use the word but instead of and, because, you know, living an and life versus an or a but life, B-U-T, not B-U-T-T, that is one of the ways that you can do it. And so that's the way that you train your tongue and your mind, is to actually incentivize yourself not to say those words for a period of time. And it really made me mindful of where I was out of integrity with myself. Okay? So, but, can't, and try. So instead of I'll try it, you would say, I'm going to do it. Instead of saying I can't, I would say I will. Instead of but, I would say and. So it's interesting, and it's fun if you play with somebody who is your accountability partner with it too. It'll change your life. It'll make you a better leader of yourself. You will listen to yourself more, and you will believe in yourself more. And I know it sounds pretty simple, but it works. It's something that I was taught at a leadership seminar that I went to years ago, and it stuck with me as a simple way. Whenever I do it, it helps me get back into integrity. And by the way, I don't do it every day. Today I say but, try, and can't. I notice that I play the BCT game, and that's what I call it. It's a game, okay, when I'm feeling like I'm being wishy-washy or I am overcommitting to things. And I do it for a month just to get my mind popped back into the right space to focus on what matters, okay? Next piece, because when you do that, you get to focus on the right hard things. And what does that mean? I'm going to give you two frameworks that will help you decide what the next right hard things are. Next piece is money likes speed. Write that down. Money likes speed. Therefore, having a posture of velocity over perfection is critical, right? Remember I said, in order to succeed, you want to fail fast, not fail slow, because failing slowly is extremely painful and costly to you. And worst of all, it hurts your confidence, which is something we need to protect at all times. Not our ego. We're not protecting our ego. We're protecting our confidence. And there is a big difference between the two of those things. The next piece is only focusing on what I call high return, low effort focus. Okay? So this means when I look at everything on my plate, and again, we're going to do this really fun exercise around this, so I promise I'm going to give you an actual how to do it. You'll be able to identify the tiny hinges that will actually swing open those big doors. There is going to be effort involved. You know, I'm not your advisor if you think that just by thinking about it, it's going to happen. I absolutely believe in manifestation, but I have a different way that I spell it. I spell it manifest action, not manifestation. Okay, if you want anything you want in the world, your manifesting has to match your actions. And so, and I'm big on what is the easiest way for me to get there without trapping me, because autonomy is my highest value. And so also I don't want to create things where it puts me in a corner. So being thoughtful and getting the right advice really helps from that perspective. And that goes into the last piece, which is qualified advisors. I don't ask everybody if they like my logo. If I'm on social, you'll never see me, can you vote for the logo you like better? Because unqualified people will give me votes. And I don't want unqualified people to vote on my stuff. I want qualified people to give me feedback. If I want to know how I can protect my finances, I want to work with people who are qualified and show what? Receipts that they are qualified to give me financial advice, right? And I wasn't always like that, friends. I was like, anybody who'd give me advice, I was so eager to hear what they had to say. But what does that do? It actually infiltrates our knowing. It makes us second guess ourselves, right? And I'm not gonna do that shit anymore. I'm grown now, right? When you're a little person, you know, you'll do that because you need to learn what's true and untrue. But you don't have to stay there, okay? And so I've taught you also yesterday and earlier today how to be a better consumer, not just a better producer, right? So that you're thoughtful in what you ingest, what you consume, what you purchase, okay? Because I think that's really important. Okay, so I'm going to tell you about what happened to me in 2006. And some of you have heard this story, but you're probably going to hear something different because there's always something different in you when you keep telling the same story over and over again. I had no reason to leave my corporate job. I was a senior vice president at Verizon West. I was the head of business-to-business marketing and strategy, and my division was extremely profitable. Okay, my whole career in the corporate world, people always wanted me leading teams because I was really good at getting results. And it's partly because I actually like leading people. A lot of people don't like managing people, right? But I actually enjoy it. And there was the business to consumer team and there was the business to business team. And the business to consumer team, they got all the advertising budget, they got the sexy commercials, you know, the fun stuff that you can do with cell phones and all the promotions around that, because that's B2C, right? I was B2B. I was selling stuff like cloud services and managed services and like VoIP and things that are not sexy, okay, but they're profitable. And when I got the opportunity to work on a B2C project, they wanted me to go and lead up this project. This was in 2005, of this new technology called internet over TV, or TV over internet, basically IPTV, Internet Protocol TV, which today the conscious collective calls that Netflix, Hulu, and all that. So I was like one of the godmothers of streaming, okay? And they wanted me on that project because it was so complicated. We were dealing with the unions and management, dealing with, you know, pulling out old like copper and putting in stuff like fiber optics. I mean, I was dealing with all the things. And I successfully brought that project to completion. And now it's worth literally billions and billions and billions of dollars to Verizon, okay? When the promotion time came up, I was told that I was going to get promoted, which was my goal. I wanted to actually be CEO of Google one day. I'm not joking. Like, I had these big dreams. I'm like, I'm going to be the first female CEO of a big tech company. And I thought that this was my way to get there. And what ended up happening was my B2C counterpart, the one whose job I did for him while he got to run his advertisements for mobile phones, okay, he got promoted and I didn't. And I realized in that moment that no matter how hard I worked and how smart I was and how devoted I was, two things were absolutely not true. Number one, that I had the respect that I deserved, and two, that I did not have any control over my future by working there. But I sure had a cute office with a disco ball on it. I had a parking spot that said Gen MF and Chem. It didn't say the MFN part, but that's what I imagined every time I rolled up into it. Like, I was like, yeah, this is my parking spot. And I made $450,000 a year. I had an executive home. I had really nice cars. My two daughters went to private school. I mean, I had it made. I didn't need to leave that job, but I realized in that moment that my values weren't ambition. I thought that my highest value is ambition and that ambition would get me everything I wanted. I realized that my highest value was autonomy, but I didn't have it yet. And the only way to make that happen was to make a change, right? So I made a 9-month plan and I quit my job. And I started a business in 2006. It was a retail business and it was a real estate business. And for the first 2 years, we were ballin'. Like money was like falling from the sky. I was even like a media expert. They started calling me the understyler. Because, because Jada's laughing. That's new to you, huh? That's new to you, huh? Because guess what my business was, you guys? I was selling underwear. Because in Hawaii, where I lived at the time, I noticed when I was flying to Dallas to go to Verizon's headquarters that when we came back and we landed in Hawaii, that all the women had Victoria's Secret bags. And I realized that we were getting on a plane for 5 hours just to buy underwear. I was like, that's where the money is. I smell the money. So I mortgaged my house, opened my first retail store, and the rest is history. Within 18 months, we were already doing $10 million in sales because the market needed it, okay? I didn't know about underwear except I knew how to wear it and that it was needed. So that's my money sniffer. I could smell the money. You see how like looking at pop culture, looking what real people are doing actually gives you an advantage to actually selling something that people want and need? Well, that rapid growth and using my skills, knowledge in marketing, packaging, promoting, and then also being very efficient in how to stand up a business helped me pick that winner and build the business. So I was really confident. I don't have this story where I sucked out of the gate. I have the story where I was confident, but that's where the problem was brewing. Because in 2008, an economic event happened called the recession. Any of you remember the 2008 recession? Tell me in the chat that I am not alone. Okay. It was devastating for people who had small business. And at the time, the only companies that were getting bailouts were the big ones, the ones that were corrupt and deceptive, right? But the small guy and gal, we didn't have the same resources. We didn't get the PPP that happened during the pandemic. We didn't get a bailout, right? And I had a highly inventoried overhead and real estate-based business. And the two industries that got hit the most during that time was real estate and retail. And that's the business I was in. And the biggest problem I realized is two things. Number one, I didn't listen to a qualified advisor. My financial guy, who by the way is still one of my financial advisors today, because he told me the truth back then and I didn't listen. I was like, I don't need that. I'm going to bet on myself because I'm really good. And during recessions, you know, we should grow, grow, grow. And he was like, that would be true if you had the money like Victoria's Secret has, or you had the money like Walmart has, but you don't have those cash reserves, right? You're going to fail. And I didn't want to listen to him. So I bet on myself. And I held on to my debts and I didn't ask for that qualified help because I thought I knew better. And I was in a business model that was volatile during that type of economic event. So what happened next is 2 days before Christmas in 2008, I was locked out of every single bank account that I had. I had literally only the cash and change in my purse. And I don't know about you guys, I'm a debit card girl and credit card girl. I don't carry money. Cash in my purse. I walked into 2 days before Christmas and I hadn't bought my daughter's Christmas presents. And they told me they'd been trying to call me, but I don't like answer my phone, right? Like I don't answer like unknown numbers on my cell phone. And my banker, who was my private teller, said, we've been trying to call you because we have an injunction against you from the federal government and your real estate holdings. And so we have to hold it during Christmas. I didn't have access to money at all until February. And you know what I was thinking about, right? What would you be thinking about? For me, it was, oh my God, my kids aren't going to have a Christmas. That's really what I was thinking about. because I was in shock around the other stuff. I was in denial. I couldn't believe it, right? And literally what felt like overnight, and I'm going to get to that in a moment, I became functionally homeless. I was mentally distraught. I had zero confidence, and I was completely numb. And if you know me, that's not me. I was so unrecognizable. I felt completely hopeless. And you know when I said what felt like overnight? Stuff like that doesn't happen overnight, friends. That's the point. Just like building your business, success doesn't happen overnight, and usually failure doesn't either. So you might as well go for it. You understand what I'm saying? You following me on that? Okay. So here I am, sitting on my grandma's porch because, y'all, I'm Filipino, and I can tell you this. This is why I said I was functionally homeless. I lost my home and my businesses, but no Filipino grandma or mama's going to let you sleep on the street, okay? So they let me sleep. My grandma let me have my old room back, and we shared a room, me and my two daughters. Remember that, Michaela? You know, with no air conditioning. Oh, woe is me, right? Such first world problems. But I mean, I went from executive home, 6-bedroom house in Hawaii to living back in the country with no air conditioning and a really kind of like old bathroom that made me scared to go in because there could be cane spiders. And I was so lost, you guys. I subsisted on green tea and cigarettes. I'm not joking. I withered away. I looked like I was like 90 pounds in a rocking chair in my 30s. I was still in my early 30s and just lost. And I was like, that's it. I've failed. I suck. I thought I was like the best person at what I do. And look, I'm not okay. Because I didn't have a community. I didn't listen to my best advisors. And my ego was so freaking big that I was more focused at being a martyr than I was at being a messenger. And so one day, this girl right here, come, Michaela's in the thing, but let me show you. This is my daughter, Michaela. Here she is. And at the time, she was 10 or 11. And she came outside because these poor kids were just eating ramen and like cooking it themselves because mommy was just in a daze. And she came outside and she tapped me on the shoulder and she said, "Mommy, you're Jen Kem. It's time to wake up now."
It's time to wake up.
It's time to wake up.
Back to bed.
And then she went back to bed. And that moment, thank you, that moment woke me up. Your values will wake you up. Okay? And I was like, wait a minute. What have I been doing? Right? Like, what do I do? How can I make this work? I have two girls that I'm a model for that I need to get back up to show that it's possible. And so I realized, because I'm a problem solver, remember I said we're all problem solvers here, or else why would we be here? Nobody would need our help if we weren't solving problems, right? I was like, what assets do I have? And I wrote down what my skills, talents, and experience were. And I said, let's start there. That's my point A. And a lot of times, even if you want to create something new, friends, you're not first looking at all the wealth you have inside first and seeing how you can leverage that even in your test stories, right? The experience story sequence, remember? The authority and the approachability stories. You're not looking at how you can use those to not just make money, but to get yourself picked up and in action, right? So I talked about what industries I see doing very well in 2023 in the brand prediction section of our training. And now I want to show you what does well no matter when. It doesn't matter if it's 2023 or it's 1999, okay? These are industries that do well during economic events like recessions. And I'm not saying that you have to go buy a cemetery like my friend did, okay? I'm saying that consulting and professional services will always have a place because people need They need a financial advisor. They need a, if they have a business, they need a business advisor, right? So, and by the way, pets, let's just talk about pets. Nobody's going to let their pet go hungry. Veterinarians and pet care always stay fine during recessions. In fact, we buy more animals during economic downturns. During the pandemic, poor veterinarians, and this was actually a problem, and I don't mean to be like a downer, but there was a trend that veterinarians were committing suicide during the pandemic because they were so overwhelmed with the amount of pets that needed care. And then all the changes they had to do, it was just so sad. I have a client who's actually a veterinarian, and she helps vets coach them through that. She left her job as a veterinarian to coach vets on that. And so the good news is there's always industries that do well. And I want to point out luxury always does well. But so does mental health. Okay? So now let's talk about how we actually figure out what we have so we're prepared for recessions. And by the way, here's another thing. We're in one right now. We're not waiting for one, y'all. Did you know that? We are in a recession right now. But the media is being careful with it because we're also going into the midterms. It's all political and pop culture that make the messaging from these authorities, politics, corporations, the media, and the people. If we were to just kind of look at the truth, we could do a better job of helping soothe people's nerves and help them through it instead of them freaking out or we freaking out, right? And so anyway, number one, you need cash flow during a recession, period. You don't need profitability as much as you need cash flow. Please write that down, okay? Don't let anybody convince you that profitability is more important than cash flow during a downturn. It's not true. I lived it. Okay, so I don't have just receipts. I have lived experience and all the things that prove that's true. And my financial advisor, who I should have listened to, told me that, and I didn't listen to him. So the question is like, how do you create cash flow generating activities? How do you pick the right hard things, right? You pick the right hard things by using what I call your fit value index. So I made that up. It's a framework that I've tested first on myself, because one thing I didn't tell you guys is that everything we teach, we do ourselves. We eat our own dog food, we like to say at our company. So there's no strategy or tactic I would ever teach you that I didn't try first. I'll go first. I'll be the poison food tester, okay? Just to make sure that at least there's some patterns that we can look at. So the fit value index is how your value, not your values, the value of your business and brand is currently. And then if you want to get out of the recession doing very well, it's that plus your unique message that helps you create a recession-proof high cash flow business. I see that profitability, you're asking what that means. That means revenue minus expenses is profit. So what you're making minus what you're spending to make it is generally profit. And if you want to have a healthy business, you should aspire for at least 25% profit in your business, but it'd be better if you be more, okay? So, because a lot of people be like, oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do Facebook ads because then it's going to cut into my profitability. I'm like, how profitable are you now? They're like 50%. I go, you have 25% to play with. We need to make some cash flow for you, right? You got to think of money differently and work with people who understand money. That's the God honest truth. It's so annoying to me that there's a lot of coaches and advisors that they don't know anything about money. And I didn't either. That's my point. I knew how to make money, but keeping it was not a skill. So I had to find advisors to help me understand all of money after I lost it all, right? Because what I can count on with me is I know how to market and sell it. And that's a very strong skill, so I'm grateful for it. But I really don't know how to do much else. I'm really good at like picking things to buy for you if like you like things, and I'm really good at reading. But otherwise, I don't have a talent or anything like that. Okay, so let's talk about what the fit value index is. It's your way to understand what the next right hard things are in your business. So FIT stands for financial property value, intellectual property value, and time property value. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and use this overhead camera right now. And we're going to work on this together, but just give us a moment. Oh, it's okay.
Okay. Can you spotlight this one, or do I have to add it up? There.
Okay.
Perfect.
So can you make it bigger? Okay, great. So your fit. So I want you to get out your journals, okay, or whatever you're writing on, and I want you to make 3 columns, right? So your financial, your intellectual, can I get Post-it notes, please, and your time. Okay, so before I go into what each one of these is, why does it say property value on, can I show this, I can only show one at a time, or can I show them side by side? So hold on, we're trying to get the slides up. Give me a moment.
Here we go.
Okay, great. You don't need to show me, but just the slides. That's the way they can see it. Okay, perfect. Okay, so when we're talking about property value, your address, online and offline, is a property. Okay, it has value. It can increase in value. Okay, so let's talk about financial value first. So financial value, financial property value is investments, cash on hand, accounts receivable. What's happening? You okay? Oh, sure.
That way they can see your, like, holding it, not the top of your head. On the, like. You lean forward. You lean forward and block.
Oh, I see.
Is that okay?
Got it, got it, got it. Okay. All right, I see what you're saying. Okay, so financial property value is investments, cash on hand, so cash reserves, accounts receivable, which is cash flow. So meaning, if you have a program and you are, you know that it's a 6-month program and you're collecting payments, that's actually accounts receivable. It's not revenue. It's not recurring revenue, but it's accounts receivable. So you can actually, your accountant can make sure that it's money that's owed to you so you can expect future earnings. Okay? And then obviously real estate. So if I were having like these things on a Post-it note here, and I put, investments, cash on hand, AR, which is accounts receivable, and real estate, okay, what you would do is you would ask yourself, investments, how many do I have? And I will tell you this, you don't have to get too specific. I'd get overwhelmed if I was trying to be specific. But for you sagey types who know every penny and where it is, God bless you, okay? I'm not that human, okay? I have a great CPA who makes sure that I don't lose all my money. So, but what are my investments? What is my cash on hand? How much money do I have in the bank for my business? And don't be embarrassed. I showed you Kathy Guggenauer. She had negative 100,000 because she had negative 100,000 in debt on credit cards for her business. Okay? Real estate. If you own any real estate, it has a value. During recessions, depending on the market you live in, it can decrease in value a little bit, but it doesn't matter. It's a financial property value. Okay, and then accounts receivable, which is, do you have clients that owe you money? Right? Or do you know, like for example, let's say you have a speaking gig in November and it's paying you $5,000. That's an example of accounts receivable. It's coming into this column, okay? So you'll have like a good idea of how strong you are here just by knowing what your basic numbers are here, okay? I'm not gonna get into like all the calculations because I don't want our brains to explode, but I want you to understand how you manage value. Okay. Next is the intellectual property value. And this is your biggest opportunity. The I and the T, like the F, is the area that some of us are like, ooh, I want to improve this. But the cool thing is the I and the T you can control. Isn't that exciting? Who's excited by that? I'm excited. So you're gonna, understand what your skills. This is comprised of your skills, your talents, your competency, any trademarks you own, and your use cases. Okay? So let's go through each one of those. So if I asked you to fill out in this part here, skills, what are all of the things that you've done that would be valuable to others? And by the way, don't answer the question in just the thing you think you want your business to be. What is any skill that would be valuable to others? The next thing you want to think about is, what are your talents? These are different. What do you have a knack for that you've rarely monetized? So for example, my husband is a handy dandy man. It's wonderful, okay? He builds tables and chairs and he doesn't sell any of it, but then sometimes he does and he makes like epic money because it's a craft made thing. I'm like, you need to sell more of those, honey, My husband's a graphic designer, so he actually prefers that, but he loves going to the thrift stores and the swap meets and finding like old stuff, and he puts it together. He makes lamps out of old blenders and things like that. So that's an example of a talent. Like, what do you have a knack for, but you've rarely monetized it? Okay? And by the way, if any of you guys want to play along, I know you're taking a lot of notes, but in the chat, if you want to name some of those things, I'd love to see those. Okay? Next is competency. What is competency? You want to write down, where do you have expertise, authority, and mastery now? Where do you have receipts of that now? It could be, you have your MBA, or you are a certified coach, or you've helped over 100 clients release, 20 pounds or more, right? Like, that's the competency piece. Those are really like results that you've been able to create. Okay, trademarks, patents, and URLs. So these are actual, like houses, online properties that have value. So do you have any? If you look at your GoDaddy account, I use Namecheap, I hate GoDaddy, but if you use, like, do you have them? Could you leverage, could you license, could you sell any of them? Okay, and then finally, the use cases, your frameworks. What frameworks do you have that are proven to work with real results and can be done without you after you've scaled it? And that's partly why a lot of people come to work with us, because they have frameworks already, but either they're too complicated or they can't work unless you're in it. And ultimately, you're going to have to be in it to prove it out. But what we really want from you is we want you to be able to have other people do it. So for example, on my campus now, all of my coaches are basically certified in the use case methodology. They're certified in the unique message model. I've mentored them and taught them how they can work with clients like mine. But you don't certify people. That would be out of integrity to certify people without actually doing it yourself. And that's why even online, all these certifications, look, if somebody charges you like $20 for a certification, it's not a certification, okay? Certification requires rigor and work in the fields, okay? So the cool thing about this is, and I wish, we don't have all the time in the world, but this is something you can do after class today, is think about that inventory of skills, talents, competencies, online assets and use cases that you do have. Because that stuff you can control, and it has value. Okay? And then finally, there's time. And there's only two things about time. Time spent and time sucked. Okay? So, let's start with time sucked because most of us do that. Working on things that are not the right hard things next, and it's causing a blockage of flow of cash and clients. So where are you sucking time? And then time spent, this is another thing I'm going to teach you in a minute, is a way to prioritize where you spend your time. Who's interested in that? Because this is a how thing, but it's one of the most powerful how things I've ever discovered. So I'm very, very excited about it. So let's take a step back, okay, and look at the FIT. And without doing, because this will be an exercise that will take you a little while. You know, put a timer on. We call it a Pomodoro. You guys know what a Pomodoro sprint is? It's 25 minutes. You set a timer, and you try to get as much done within the 25 minutes as possible, and then you take a break. This is one of the things that we do on our campus because it allows us to get some intense work done, and then we walk away from it for a little while. So what I'd like you to do, your homework is, after we finish today, to do a Pomodoro sprint of your own to fill these out, okay? And you're probably wondering, okay, so once I fill it out, what now, Jen? What now? Well, you're going to get on one page a really clear view of how much your value is. Not you as a person, but your business is. Because your business does have a financial, an intellectual, and a time value. And you have to go, wow, if I could improve this intellectual and time, my financial column will look better, right? And you'll also see, for example, like during recessions, I always say, don't try to jump into a business that you have no skills, talents, or competency in. Okay? For example, you know, it's always sexy to buy real estate, right? I gotta tell you that even though real estate has been one of the things that's helped me have more cash, I'm not smart at it. Okay, I'm lucky because remember I mentioned Elizabeth earlier, the lady who is like so entrepreneurial, and she's my realtor here, and she found me the vineyard. This chick is a beast at real estate. She understands it. She understands the flow, and I'm like, she is a qualified advisor that has helped me amass wealth here, right? I'm not going to go try to take a course and learn real estate. I don't have an interest in that, but I have an interest in creating wealth from it, right? When it comes to intellectual property and time, you may want to consider working with us because your message is your intellectual property. It will help you close more sales, get more speaking gigs, streamline your social media, right? And then time, I'm going to teach you how to do that next. But if you take that Pomodoro, you take a look, you're going to see where you possibly even can use some of the places you've identified as skills, talents, and competencies as part of your storytelling, as part of the receipts that you can use when you're telling people about what you do. But because you have it laid out very simply, it's easier for you to extract it. In our programs, we create a lot of systems where it's easy for you to extract these pieces. So for example, for the stories, the authority and the approachability stories, we have something we call a story bank. And it's where you inventory your stories and then you create the bridge conversation to your irresistible offer and how it solves their rich niche problem. And just that system alone that our clients use makes flow around the storytelling and the content management like ridiculous, right, Sarah? I mean, it's a magical tool, but it's not really magic. It's literally a Google spreadsheet and a process. But a lot of our stuff, because if you're a visionizer, and I call us visionizers, not visionaries, because visionizer indicates action, we're not organized. We're not supposed to be. That's not our gift. Even you sages who've talked yourselves into thinking you should be. If you're a true visionizer, you're a very unorganized, scatterbrained, ADHD person, generally speaking. But you've convinced yourself that you need to be good at that to feel valuable, and that's not true. What you need is to see the truth in front of you and get qualified advisors to shortcut it for you, period. So you can focus on your skills, talents, competencies, and use cases, because you can control that. That's who you are. This middle part is you. You can control all of this. Okay, now let's go to time. That also we get to control, but we do also know, guess what, guys? What else happens during our time? People suck it out of us too, right? AKA kids, AKA spouses, AKA mothers, fathers, friends, right? And I'm not saying they suck, but the time does get sucked, right? And that's normal, unless you're a hermit and a recluse, which, you know, you have new friends now. Please come out to play sometimes, all right? So we know there's a percentage of your time that will not be working on your business. And actually, that's healthy, because you shouldn't be working on your business 24/7, right? So the question is this one right here, time spent. How do I organize this so that during the time spent, I'm working on this stuff that I'm good at? Because this stuff you're good at. This stuff, maybe some of you are naturally good at finance and accounting. That's cool. I'm so grateful that you're here, because you'll probably have some good advice for people here. But this is the part. So we got to know, okay, what is the percentage of time that I need to spend? And that's what we're going to solve next in our last workshop session today. Because then you're going to know how to work on the right hard things, okay? So with that said, can we go back to just the screen and me, please? No. What were your light bulb moments when we talked about recession planning your business? I'd like to have an open discussion. You can put in the chat, but I would love to take live shares from our party people here. Anybody want to share? I see Sarah and Rebecca.
Hi there.
Hi, Sarah.
Can you hear me? Hi.
Yes.
Good. So for me, I think the part that really resonated just then was about the skills, talents, and competency and the intellectual part, because this is tying back for me into what we talked about yesterday, which was that my framework is too complicated. So how do I actually define the problem? And so going over that skills, talents, competency will help me to define the best part of my current framework, to be able to pull it out, focus on that, and use it to lean in and to sell better. That's where I had a moment then.
Amazing. And I think what's cool is you will realize when you do this exercise, friends, that how cool you are, how like qualified you are. And also, you'll also note where you need maybe perhaps a little bit more qualification. Maybe that, and that would be a good place to invest. Like when people ask me, Jen, should I pursue my MBA? Should I get my PhD? Should I get my coaching certification? And I ask them to do something like this first to see if that's actually what they need. That way you don't spend that time, energy, and money if you don't need it. Let's look at what you have first. So it's also a good asset for that, to know, hey, if I do have to pursue additional training or whatever, or even work on the job or whatever, that I know for sure what it is. So I'll choose the right next thing instead of choosing something I think I need.
Right.
That's awesome. Thank you for
Cool.
being here.
No problem.
Awesome. Who's next? Rebecca?
Yeah. Thank you so much for this. My aha going through the exercise of the Fit Value Index is that the intellectual space is where I feel most confident. And so to document all of my skills, talents, competencies, it was affirming of the fact that I'm in the right space, like I'm doing the right thing, and knowing that improving that in time will secure the financial piece. I thought, okay, there's a roadmap for this to work out.
Right.
And then the other piece is the reminder that you gave us to lead ourselves. And that's the integrity piece, is like, we have to be able to lead ourselves in order to lead other people. And I've heard that before, but it was just kind of clicked again for me in the session today.
Amazing. Thank you. So happy you're here. Anyone else? These shares are so golden. Maybe we can read some shares inside of the chat. Oh, wait. Yeah. Oh, yes. Hi, Katarina.
Hi, I'll just jump on again here. I loved the BCT. I do a lot of mindset work. That was kind of what, I mean, it's been a number of years now, but that's sort of what brought me to even being able to articulate that I wanted to be an entrepreneur and that I wanted to start my own business, et cetera. So definitely a lot of my mental space taken up by that, but it's such a great little tool because I just am such a believer in the power of language shaping our experience of the world and shaping the results we're able to create for ourselves. So just like a little one that I love taking stock and inventory of, like, what's going on up there, because there's a lot.
Yeah,
so.
love that. It really is such a great integrity exercise and game for me when I'm stuck. Like, I'll just go, okay, BCT game for the next 30 days just to get me resorted and then back. It's pretty funny too when you notice how much you're saying but can't and try. It's like really funny. So awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, so chat. Let's see. Cash flow over profitability. That I can take action that keeps on thriving during the recession instead of just enduring it or fearing it. Yes, exactly. Susie, so true. How to break it down to make it clear. Aha moment. Good. Ditto on cash flow over profit insight. It incentivizes fueling momentum instead of pinching pennies. Yes. And yeah, one of the great reminders doing FIT is the AR piece. Yep, the accounts receivable piece. And let's also, since that comment about cash flow versus profitability, I really want to go a little bit deeper on that before we jump into what's next. Because before you're making about $250,000 a year in your business, absolutely, there are 3 things that you have to focus on, period. Okay? Marketing, sales, and cash flow. Any other system or process that doesn't support those 3 activities is a waste of your damn time. Up to 2, you can even have you don't even have to have an LLC or an S corp until you're making $1 million. Did you guys know that? Now, I'm not a CPA, but technically you don't have to. It's not a money thing. Having an S corp or an LLC, it has nothing to do with your money. Did you know that? It has to do with business protection. That's what it is. It has nothing to do with money. So when people say to me, oh, well, I've got to get this together first, and I've got to get like my website finished, I'm like, you are working on the wrong thing. And until you get knocked down enough, you're going to waste a lot of time and energy doing it, okay? Once you're about over 250,000 in revenue, then you really need some good operational support. Like, and you, up until that point, you may have an operator in your company, like a really great VA or OBM, online business manager. But like, that's the time when you'll start going, I really need to hire full-time help for my business because I want to create more. So I always like to say, like, after 250K, that's when you start looking at, you know, revenue and profit, because your cash flow has stabilized. You found some winners in your products and programs that you can at least put bets on. So now you're like, how do I streamline profitability? How do I keep more of my money? How do I reinvest my money into my personal wealth? How do I hire more people? Okay? But a lot of people waste time on this idea of scaling and profitability before there's nothing to profit. You know? Even paid advertising, I like to say, like, if it costs me $100 to get one of you here, and it does cost me about $100 to get one of you here, I know that for a fact. I have data. I'm selling you a $5,000 product. How much do you think profitability I have? But yet people are like, I can't spend $100 on an ad. I'm like, what's the cost of your program? $2,000. So what you're saying is you don't trust your intellectual property. You don't trust your marketing. It has nothing to do with profitability. Does that make sense? I will pay up to about $4,000 to acquire one of you because I'll still make $1,000 profit. You see that? But you're so busy focused on the wrong thing and not listening to people understand money and marketing like we do. And that's why the big dogs hire me and us, because they know, like, I teach them this stuff that they're teaching you guys or other people, you know, and I won't chase affiliates to let people know me. I'd rather like have people come to me because they believe my authority stories, because then they've bought it in for themselves and they're choosing in for themselves instead of because somebody had a bonus and introduced me to them. So I want you to understand this so that you start investing in the right things, because so many people are losing money. We're visionaries too, right? Visionizers, and that's why courses can be tough for us because we can't even sit still. I want to give you some relief around that, is that whenever you buy a course based on a skill that you want to acquire because you believe that it fits inside of your fit value, only take the modules you actually need. You don't have to finish a course to feel accomplished. You need to get what you need, extract the value, and then apply it immediately. That is how you take courses, right? So there's so much here that I feel like I want to teach you so that you're building businesses that make sense, that make you feel like you're contributing, and that you have a lot of space.